We own a construction company. We also have a few other businesses all around property. Last year we did about 3.8 million. The year before that was about 5 million. 30 or so houses in the pipeline to be built.
This is Michael Wilson, who's a 32-year-old business owner owning several companies all based around property, which in 2023 brought in $5 million. Craziest of all, he set this business up at only 22 years of age. But the most impressive part about Michael's story is not the money or his business success. Surprisingly, he actually failed most of high school. He was on the path to becoming a degenerate loser with no future.
So I failed school, maths and English. What are you going to do with your life? And how are you going to stop being a piece of shit?
So how did he turn his life around and prove them wrong? To find out, we flew out to a small town near Auckland, New Zealand to uncover why he decided to give traditional education the middle finger. Starting a business is always a roller coaster of a journey, and Michael's experience was no exception. After dropping out of tertiary education, he worked odd jobs until he noticed someone his age thriving in real estate investment. Inspired, he dove in, hustling hard and buying 3 houses to rent out. But just as he was saving for his 4th, the bank cut him off.
I had another property under contract, went back to the banks, and they pretty much all said no because I didn't have enough income. So I was making 25, 26 grand a year from a job.
His solution, if he couldn't buy, he would build. In this episode, Michael shares the key lessons behind his success, offering valuable insights and strategies that could help you build your own path to success.
Can you tell us who you are, what you do?
Well, my name is Michael Wilson. I'm 32 years old. I own a residential construction company, and we do quite a few builds around the Waikato, mostly new builds. So that's our primary business. We own a construction company called Designer Homes, but we also have a few other businesses all around property. So a couple of businesses that do spec homes, subdivisions. We've got a few companies that are just for building rental properties or holding rental properties. We've been working on a project which we're building a property investment community. So we're going to essentially help other people move forward in property investing.
Nice. Yeah. And in terms of a ballpark figure, revenue-wise, how much are you roughly pulling in?
For this particular business?
Yeah.
Last year we did about 3.8 million revenue for the building company. The year before that was about 5 million.
So what's the stuff up on the wall here?
Yeah, mate, this is where the magic happens. So all of the plans on the wall, these are either builds that we're working on at the moment or they're builds that we're about to start. We must have maybe 30 or so houses in the pipeline to be built.
And so what got you into property in particular?
Basically, when I was sitting down with my olds having a pretty serious conversation, they just said to me, what are you going to do with your life? And how are you going to stop being a piece of shit? Stop being a degenerate loser?
Right.
I had no idea. I was 19, 20 years old at the time. And they just said, just think of one friend who's got their life together and tell us what they do. And so I was like, I know Tim, and he owns 3 houses and he seems to be doing pretty well. Sweet. They're like, maybe you could do what Tim does. And it's like, yeah, maybe I could own some houses. If you're going to do that, then what job are you going to go and get to allow you to be able to acquire and get houses, build houses, buy them, renovate them, do them up, add value? So that led me to searching for a building apprenticeship.
In terms of the struggles, what's been the biggest struggle to date?
I think being consistent is quite a big struggle because a lot of people will just give up because they start working at something for a couple of months and then they don't see the results, so they give up and go, oh no, that's not going to work. They make an excuse, but excuses blind the mind to possibility, whereas the people who have the grit and tenacity and they keep working at something for an extended period of time, it's almost a given that you're going to achieve it. It's like, it's almost impossible that you're not going to get there. If I think about all the people who have achieved what they want to achieve, whether it's taken them a year or 10 years, if they've consistently worked towards that goal, eventually they hit it.
Say you talk about consistency. Is there a particular method or something you use in particular to stay consistent or hold yourself accountable to it?
I think it sort of just comes with time. It's kind of like building that discipline muscle. There's been a couple of times where I've like hit a ceiling, or I couldn't get more lending and I sort of stopped for a while, but then you learn a bit more and you realize new ways that you can move forward. So being consistent is really just building that muscle of doing it over time, because you can't be motivated forever. Motivation is fleeting. It doesn't last very long. But the other side of that is you start to get the wins, it builds momentum, and you do the thing that worked, then it validated that it worked, and you keep moving forward on it.
Let's just take it back to your initial days. So you finished school. Did you go university from there?
I actually went to Polytech, or I went to Wintech to study business, because I failed school maths and English. I failed 5th and 6th, 7th form maths, and I failed 7th form English. So
oh wow.
Yeah. So don't let school get in the way of your education, though.
100%.
Yeah, it's funny. My mum's a teacher, and she said that to me.
All right, so you kind of made it through school, went into Polytech, and then, so how long were you there for?
Oh, about a year, but I failed.
Okay.
So that's sort of leaving school. And then I got into building maybe about 6 to 9 months after that.
Right, and then so what was your initial kind of steps?
So I sort of devised the idea about how I was going to buy properties and recycle the deposits. So buy them under value, be able to renovate to create equity, and then recycle that same deposit. I saved for about a year when I started building.
And in terms of saving, how'd you go about that? Were you just working flat out for a year?
Yep. I sold all my shit.
Yeah.
I sold my flash drum kit. I sold a bunch of stuff around the house.
Yeah.
And then I ended up getting a loan from the olds to make it 20%, but I worked all of that off. So I built this, it's like, because I was building and they owned a dairy farm, so they wanted massive, like 44 meter shed. And they were like, oh, you can build it for like 10 grand. So I was like,
True.
yeah, sweet.
Yeah.
So that was me every weekend for about 8 or 9 weeks. So I built that, and then I did calves, milk cows before and after work for about 6 months and a lot of weekends over the winter. And then I'd start looking for property number 2. And then we brought property number 2 pretty much 6 months after the first one. Same thing again, started looking for the third, and we found an old gang pad meth house in TA, which we brought and moved into. Yeah, that's pretty much the first year, brought those 3 houses. And then on the third one, I had another property under contract, went back to the banks, and they pretty much all said no because I didn't have enough income. So I was making, 25, 26 grand a year from a job, being in the building industry. I met a few builders who were building spec homes. They seemed to be making a shitload of money. So then I decided I'm going to be qualified soon. I'm going to build a spec home. Ended up selling those properties because I needed a lot more cash. Me and my brother went in and built one, bought a section, built the spec home, and then that spec home went incredibly well. It made about $141,000 from memory. So I did that while I was still working at my job. So I'd get up at like 4 a.m.
Yeah.
I'd go work on the house for like 2 or 3 hours before work, then go to my day job at 7:30 in the morning, try to finish as early as I can, try to get out of work at like 3:30, 4 o'clock if I could, and then I'd go straight back and work on the spec home, and then a weekend work on it all weekend. And then I quit my job, finished the spec home, sold it, and started hiring guys from there and moving forward.
Looking at your Instagram, you do quite a lot of reels, kind of promoting business and property flipping, etc. Can you just expand a little bit on that?
What happened is I kept getting asked by people to mentor them to do whatever it was for property. Like I was saying, when I was younger and I wanted to talk to people who are into property investment, but those people were actually quite hard to find. So I wanted to create like an ecosystem of driven property people around me that, 1, you can network with, 2, I could put the mentoring into place to start to help those people, and 3, lead to like joint venture opportunities where people can come together, work on deals together. Yeah, it's just cool. You become the average of the 5 people around you. So if you build a whole bunch of people around you that are motivated and ambitious, I guess it helps with keeping you motivated. It works back and forth. You're going to help them win even further. And if they're already the kind of person who has the mindset to be a winner, they're going to help you.
Right. I mean, that just sounds like you got a lot going on. How do you manage all that?
What you really need to do is, as you grow and scale, is it's all about building a team and then training them to be able to take on all the tasks that you used to do.
So just delegation.
Yeah, so if you saw on the bottom of my screen there, I've got a little note that says if the task is worth less than $100 per hour, outsource it or delegate it immediately.
I like that.
As you grow and scale and you bring people into the roles that you used to do, and you dedicate your time to the higher dollar per average work that needs to be done, that's kind of how you grow and scale.
So do you find you're less hands-on now, say, compared to a few years ago?
In terms of on the building site?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, I don't wear my tool belt very often.
Yeah.
I don't know where any of my tools are. I do have my tool belt. I think it's only got a hammer in it at the moment.
Where are we off to right now?
We're going to head to Sheehan Street, which is a 1-8 subdivision that we have almost finished completing, and then we're going to build a bunch of spec homes on there once it's done early next year.
Big trending topic these days, financial freedom.
Yep.
What's your perception on that?
The goalpost for financial freedom is very much specific to the individual, because, I mean, if you got to say $2 million and then you put it into a low risk, let's say share portfolio, and all you needed was 50, 60 grand to live on, if that's what your means were, then it's highly achievable at that level. But for me, my means are considerably higher.
Yep.
Got lots of kids, partner who likes nice things. The point that I need to get to financially, I've determined as a net worth of 10 million. And the reason I've done that is when I reverse engineer it through property investments to get to the point where I've got enough, say, passive income coming in to support my annual expenses. And I want to have around $300,000 a year in passive income. Not that anything's truly passive, but essentially do what I want to do. So, I want to be in the position where I can still go on 2 or 3 overseas holidays a year, have enough money to support your children and the wife, Tell you what, this year, me and my boy Jason, who we're starting up a new business in the new year together, our goal is we're going to hit a certain financial point, and when we do, we're going to go to Singapore for lunch business class.
Nice.
It's one of our goals. You've heard the people that are like, once you fly business class, you never want to go back.
You can't go back to cattle
So
class.
that's kind of the idea. It's like, once you hit a level or a point, you always want to do whatever you have to do to stay at that point. You get accustomed to it, and that becomes your new baseline, your new standard. It's not really about having the money, it's about what the money brings you, and the money brings you freedom. So once you get to that point, once I get to that point, I've attained the freedom, so I can decide what I want to do with my time and resources at that stage. For me, it may not necessarily be about making more money or growing more wealth. It's about having the options to help other people around you, to support everyone, your family, your friends, and you get to the point where you can start to help other people get ahead in life. So that's kind of the back end goal of financial freedom for me.
What's the best financial advice you've received?
That's a good question. The best financial advice is to not take advice from people who aren't in the position where you want to be. If you want to grow a multi-million-dollar property portfolio, are you going to listen to your financial advisor who doesn't own any houses or he owns his own home? Or are you going to listen to the guy who failed at school but he owns 14 properties and has around 3 or 4 million net worth? On that note, you should always take advice from people who have done what you're trying to do. And even better, if you can take advice from a professional that has achieved what you're trying to do. So let's say you want to use a mortgage broker and you want to get 4 or 5 investment properties. Let's say you've determined your why, you've determined your level that you need to get to, whatever it is. Maybe it's $3 million net worth with 100k passive income. Go and find a mortgage broker who's done that already, as opposed to just using your mate because the guy Steve that your mate recommended because he's a good bloke.
And in terms of being a business owner, so you've obviously been in a position where you've been an employee working for someone else. And now you're obviously a business owner. What was the biggest difference?
It's funny when people talk about they want to become an entrepreneur so they're not stuck to their 9 to 5, but what they end up doing is working 5 to 9. But it's the short-term pain for the long-term gain. But the short-term is actually like a decade. The short-term isn't like 6 months.
A lot of startups generally tend to fail after the first 2-3 years. What do you think is a secret to not failing?
Well, that's a really good question. Yeah, because the statistics, something like 80 or 90% of startups fail in their first 2 years. Yeah, I don't know if there is one particular secret for success or failure in business, but the knowledge before you go into it's pretty important. For one, just working your ass off and just literally on the grind all the time. Like when I first started my building company, I was just working 7 days a week all the time. And like we've had quite a few financial hits over the time, but because we're always working hard and we're growing and expanding, you're kind of absorbing those financial hits. I think for a lot of people, if they stay with that employee mentality where they're just working, say, 30, 40 hours a week, and then they try and do that in business, it's not going to work. Let's say I want to grow a business, and to grow the business, you have to be wearing multiple hats, especially when you're starting. So you're going to start off, you're going to be the sales and marketing person, you're going to be the project manager, you're going to be the apprentice, you're going to be everything, you're going to be doing all the admin, all the books. So if you want to grow and scale, you have to be working, say, 80 hours a week so you can afford to take on and train the person who's going to work 30, 40 hours a week. And then once they're built up and they're trained, let's say after 6 months, they've taken that load off you, you still have to be doing the 60, 70, 80 hours a week before you take on the next person or while you take on the next person. So you have to be able to work extremely hard and you have to do it for a long period of time. And I believe if you do that for a long period of time, you're going to be able to take the hits and learn what you need to do as time goes on to keep growing. Previously it was 4,000 square meters, so it was just the house and all of the land, and then now we've split it up into 8 individual titles.
And so how long do you think it will take to complete this section?
We'll just build probably these front 2 houses first to start with, and then once they're built and sold, then we'll start the next 2 and so on. So we'll build 5 to 6 of these houses, and then once it's done, we'll move on to the block next door, which we also own.
If you could start this journey all over again from scratch, what would you do differently?
What would I do differently? I'd probably buy Bitcoin. Pretty obvious. To be honest, I don't know if I would go down the construction route. It's a valuable thing to learn, but it's quite a hard industry to be in. But if I think, like, let's say I wanted to go back and I wanted to grow a bigger net worth and make more money, I would have avoided the building company and I would have just gone full into property investment and just started acquiring rentals and keeping them and not doing anything else. Other side of that is I wouldn't have learnt a quarter of what I've learnt now. So I'm kind of on 2 sides of the fence. I'm like, I could have made a lot more money if I just stuck to buy and hold rental properties. But at the same point in time, I'm like, I've learnt probably 10 times more than I did before. So now going forward, because of all the things I've learnt and the networks and things that I've grown into, am I going to be able to achieve far more in the future now than I would have? My old man said to me, the future is unknown, the past is set in stone, and all you can do is focus on what you can achieve or do today.
I like it. And do you think they should teach more about investing in property at school?
Maybe not necessarily about investing in property, but I think the big thing that they should teach people about in school, which they don't, is they should just teach people about what money actually is, how money's created, where it comes from. I think a lot more people knew that it'd be a lot easier for them to achieve financial freedom or have an understanding about how it works. You know, that's the thing, is people don't have financial literacy because a lot of the time parents don't know themselves. They're just cogs in the machine.
Yeah.
You only know what you're taught. I don't know, school's a slippery slope. I feel like it's going downhill very fast.
Yeah, why do you say that?
People seem to be getting dumber. They're teaching subjects that don't have any real value in real life. But yeah, some of the crap that's in schools today, I don't think it helps people very much in reality.
Sweet, where are we at right now?
So this is home.
Pretty nice balcony here.
Yeah.
Growing a brand, growing an audience. What's your biggest tip for someone that is trying to grow their own platform?
The thing that I found works really well for me is because it's such a niche topic on say Instagram, for example, like it's all property related, so you sort of attract people that are into that particular topic. So it's basically all property people, and that's what the page is about. It's all property related. And for us, it's not so much about having a massive page. We don't care about having 50,000 or 100,000 people. We'd prefer to have 5,000 people who are all about the particular subject that we're talking about, because those are the people that you want to network with and get to know, and you want to grow with. So that's more important.
What mindset do you need to be successful, do you think?
That's a brilliant question. Mindset's an interesting one. Motivation's fleeting, but you do need to have some motivation to get started. Then you get the motivation, you do something, you get the positive reinforcement when it works out. But that gap between actually starting and getting that positive reinforcement is where most people fail, because they don't have the grit to stick it out. They don't have a big enough why, so it comes back to why you're actually doing it. You need to have something that's bigger than yourself. It's interesting when I ask people why they're doing something, a lot of the time it's not actually about the particular person, like their own personal wants. There's always something bigger. I just notice people say this a lot. They'll say things like my church or my community or my family. So a lot of the time people's whys are about something bigger than themselves, and that helps them get to the point where they get that positive reinforcement back, start with motivation, then they have a win, which validates what they were doing, and then it tells them to keep going forward to get the next win and the next win and the next win. So in terms of the mindset, you're going to end up getting to the point where you get the discipline as opposed to the motivation.
For those people that are looking to not necessarily go down the property side of things, but just entrepreneurship, becoming a business owner, what would be your one piece of advice to them?
First thing that comes to mind is to get around people who are doing what you want to do. One, they're either going to be able to help you, or they're going to teach you things that you don't know. So that's probably the most important tip I would give if you're looking to become an entrepreneur. Go and get around somebody in the space that you're looking to get involved in.
In terms of your own goal, where do you want to see your brand, your company go from here on in?
Great question. I've sort of just been in this expansionary mindset for a while. I mean, we're obviously, like we talked before, we're trying to hit that, say, financial target, but at the same point, I want to develop, say, a network or ecosystem of people around me that have similar interests, so that the money's one thing, but having fun with people is also pretty cool as well. So we're just going to keep growing and expanding and evolving as time goes on, because you want to make the journey as fun as possible as you go along, which is pretty important. Yeah.